Not in my wildest dreams that I thought there is any way or possibility of reconciliation. We're done. We are legally divorced. She's withheld my son from me. I want nothing to do with her.
Welcome to the free sermon podcast of the Potter's House Church in Virginia Beach, affiliated with Christian Fellowship Ministries. Our vision is winning souls, making disciples, and planting churches. It's Tuesday, where you're going to hear a powerful testimony of God's grace revealed in human lives. Each Tuesday, you'll hear Pastor Adam interviewing pastors from around the world to share the mighty miracles that God has done in their lives to give you hope for yours. We share the stories of the men behind the messages you hear every other day on this podcast. Keep in mind that the free version only includes a portion of the whole testimony interview. To listen to the full version, use the links in the show notes to subscribe via Apple Podcasts or supercast.tech. Every dollar goes to supporting world evangelism. Enjoy today's Testimony Tuesday.
Hello and welcome back to the VBPH Sermon Podcast. We are here on Testimony Tuesday, and we are in for another pastor's interview. We're going to hear the incredible testimony of what God has done, and we are also very blessed and privileged to have pastor and his wife along for the ride. So this is a good privilege for us to have both at the same time. Sometimes we have only the pastor, many times, and then we have the other version of our podcast called Unsung Heroes, where we hear from the pastor's wives, but we don't often get the pair together. So we're very privileged to have Pastor Stephan, his wife Pauline. Welcome to Testimony Tuesday. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. It's an honor.
Well, we appreciate the time. We believe that time is our most precious commodity. So thank you for spending a little bit with us tonight. Well, I say tonight because it's 7 p.m. here on the East Coast, and that means it's 9 a.m. where you are. Down under, and you are joining us from a motel room, which means you are preaching the gospel somewhere, believing God in revival. You're based out of the Footscray Church, but tell us a little bit about what God is doing where you are right now.
I'm an evangelist from the Footscray Church. I pastored for 10 years, but now I'm an evangelist, and I'm preaching revival in a city here in Melbourne called Geelong. This is a coastal suburb, lovely place, and it's a pioneer work, and we're just seeing the hand of God. We started off on Saturday with a number of impact teams from the local churches, and we had a tremendous time on the streets. We had over 30 people responding to salvation just on the streets, and at night on Saturday night we had 4 saved. Sunday night we had returned visitors from Saturday night, so that was exciting. Sunday night they came back, and 2 more saved, and last night, outstanding. That's same visitors haven't missed a beat, and they're enjoying it. They're talking about inviting their friends. So the pastor here is kind of very happy with what's going on, and it's a dream for every pioneer pastor to see his very first revival kicking off like that.
Oh, lovely! Yeah, that's wonderful. That's very encouraging. And so you brought your wife along for the revival. That's nice.
Well, she didn't come for the entire revival. She came specifically for this because originally I thought I'm going to be traveling back and forth, but he was gracious enough. It's about 45 minutes to an hour drive. So he was gracious enough to say, no, I've booked you a room to stay. He said, I want you to be fresh. So I'm grateful for that.
Well, that's good. Okay. Well, we'll have to send in a love offering because we're taking some of his time.
I think it will go a long way. Absolutely.
Wonderful. Well, again, thank you for taking the time to join us, and we're excited to hear what God has done in your life. So why don't you take us back, both of you? You can take a few moments to share about where you're from, what your family life was like growing up, and where you come from.
Terrific. Well, let me just clarify something. Stephan is my name. However, Steve is not actually my first Christian name. It's just a nickname of my surname. I come from Cairo, Egypt, and my first Christian name is Fuad, which no one can pronounce. They call me Fuad, Fawood, Food. So we made a decision to make it Steve, to make it easier for everyone. And wherever I work, they just refer to me as Steve. So
Okay.
I come from an Egyptian. Yeah, it makes it easy for everyone. I come from an Egyptian background, born and raised. I was born in 1965 in Cairo, and just lived our lives. My parents were very religious, Catholic, so every Sunday at church. But as you know, it was just attending, no relationship whatsoever. Grew up as a young man. Went to a private school. Had a good upbringing. My home was stable. Mom, dad, grew up in a good home. Eventually, I finished school and kind of looking at uni, and I wasn't really keen on that. But there was an opening for me to go and work at the airport in the airlines. So I started working through a family contact. He was able to recommend me, and I worked for KLM, the Royal Dutch Airlines. And the reason I mentioned that, because how I came to Australia is a friend of mine migrated to Melbourne, Australia, and because he knew that I worked for the airlines, he said, "Why don't you come and visit me during your holidays and spend some time?" I said, "Yeah, no problem." And hence, because we pay a very, very discounted airfare, I came to Melbourne in 1986 on my annual leave to visit. And that's when the story started. But before we start the story, I'll just bounce to Pauline, and she can mention about her upbringing to this moment.
Let's hear.
Yeah, hi. My parents were Lebanese. Well, they still are Lebanese, but yeah, my parents are Lebanese. Grew up in Australia, but I was born and bred in Australia. So very Aussie in my thinking. Just really shunned that whole, I don't want anything to do with my culture. I just want to be an Australian. Dad came to Australia at 27, I think he was, 28. My grandparents had gotten saved in Lebanon, and that was a miracle. My grandfather got ill. They were desperate. They got someone to come in to pray for him, because in Lebanon you pay and then you see the doctor. Well, they had no money. Granddad was a drunk. He was a gambler. He squandered all their money. And so this pastor comes in, lays hands on him and prays, and my grandfather gets healed.
Wow.
And that sparks the change in them. They get saved. But the kids were still all rat bags. My father, my uncles, all crazy. Dad had just gotten out of prison, and the only thing they could say to him, the only way they could offer him any type of protection is get out of the country. So they sent him to Australia, where he met my mother and married my mother. A couple of years later, I was born, but it was just in that unsettled type of home that we lived in for a very long time. So, I was the only person in my entire primary school with dark hair, dark eyes. Australia back then was very white. So I was the only person there that was kind of like a little bit different, sprinkling of Italians, but the rest were just all white Aussies. And so, really shunned my culture.
And
that until I met my husband at 17.
Just curious.
Sorry, I missed your question.
What part of Australia did you grow up in?
In Melbourne. Okay. Always stayed in Melbourne. So in Victoria, the lower part of Australia.
Okay.
Back then it was a different place than what it is now.
And question for both of you: only children, or do you have brothers and sisters?
I have a sister who's, funny enough, she lives in the States, in South Carolina.
Not too far from us.
Yeah, and I'm the eldest of there's my brother and my sister, but our family, like, I've got about 30 odd cousins, and I really mean odd cousins. So we've come from a large family, but we're a small portion of it.
Okay. So I think that this is the first time that we've had an Egyptian on the podcast. So I would love to hear a little bit about what makes that unique. What's unique about the Egyptian culture that has helped you become who you are?
Well, to be honest with you, it was my Egyptian culture that got me into trouble with our marriage, because that's all I knew, and it's completely different. A Middle Eastern marriage is a completely different setting than a Western marriage. What you see in the movies and what you see happening in front of you is radically different than what the Bible says and what Western life is all about. So in my culture, the wife is just, in a roundabout way, is to serve me. It's a benefit for me to cook, clean, do all the chores. But that's, and I'm going to be touching on that as we go. And that's what got me into trouble.
Yeah, and so is that also true even across different religions? Because you mentioned you grew up Catholic, but I know that that's not. Is it true that that's not majority? Like Christianity is not majority religion there?
Yeah, absolutely. It's about almost over 90% Muslim and the rest Christians, but that categorized in Catholic, Orthodox,
Right.
Baptist, and true believers as born again. So we're a very, very minority there.
Okay. So why don't you tell the story of how you all met?
Okay, so as I mentioned, I came basically with the intention of visiting my friend, 1986, and the truth of the matter is he was going to an Arabic-speaking church, and he mentioned to me that one of the families in that church have a business who they sell Middle Eastern, products, groceries, nuts, all sorts of things. So he said, let's take you and get some stuff so that way you feel like you're back home.
Okay.
I said, oh, great, let's do that. So we went and visited that business. Long behold, in that setting, so we go into that, and he's speaking to the owner, which is her mom and dad. But at the time, it was her mom, and Pauline was just standing behind the counter in her school uniform. She just finished school, so she's just a walking distance from school. So she's standing behind the counter. All I can say, I was just struck, So I'm not interested in the conversation he's got with her mum. I got my eyes glued on her, Remember, I'm not saved, so I'm just. This is my disclaimer here. I tried to kind of start a conversation with Pauline, but she kind of looked very shy, not giving me eye contact, not catching on what I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to have some sort of a random conversation and engage her with me. But I think she was pretending to be shy, to be honest with you.
I was so shy.
I would not believe that for a moment. Now I know her very well. But anyway, that made it more exciting, to be honest with you, because easy come, easy go, as they say. But I really liked what I saw, and I was like, I was struck. Anyway, so we went back home with the goodies that we bought, and I was just asking a lot of questions. Oh, does she go to that church that you go to? Yeah. I said, oh, okay. Is she got a boyfriend? Is she committed to it? No. I said, because I like that girl. She's very sweet. I said, is there any chance we can go back again? And then he said, yeah. So I finished quickly the stuff that we bought. I ate it that same night, just to give us an excuse to go back. And we did end up going back. And I think that the second time, I had probably a few more words with Pauline, which kind of got me more and more interested in that. And so coming back, I'm like, what's the story? What's their family? What's happening here? Is there anyone on the radar for Pauline? Do you think there's any chance to talk to her and get to know her a bit more while I'm here. And he said, well, let me talk to her mum. I'm like, this is getting serious. So again, he obviously had a good relationship with her mum, and then he spoke to her. He said, listen, my friend that's here from Egypt is got a keen eye on your daughter. Do you think, would you allow him to talk to her and just to get to know her? And she was open to the idea. I think she liked me as well, which is a good start.
My mother liked him. It wasn't me. It was my mother.
So when he asked her mum if there's any chance that we can connect and talk, she was actually for it. I mean, what I didn't know, that her mum liked me. So that was
helps.
One foot in the door sort of thing. Absolutely. There was the favor of God there. So what they've decided, her mum and my friend, is that instead of telling Pauline specifically we're going to go and meet them, we're going to organize to meet at the shopping center at the same time by accident. So that kind of worked well. We were in the shopping center at a certain time, and before they know it, they were walking in and said, oh, good to see you here. Yeah. But Pauline kind of sussed it all out big time, and she wasn't impressed. She was really kind of ticked off with her mum. But anyway, would you like to catch up for a coffee? Would you like to have a drink? Let's sit down. And then obviously we sit down, and the mum left and my friend left, and here we are, just me and her. So basically, to make it short, we spoke, and there was kind of signs, but she was really making me earn it.
Well, yeah, it sounds like you were all for it, and it sounds like her mother was all for it, but Pauline, doesn't sound like you were all for it.
You were spot on. You are spot on there. So I had to kind of work my magic and press hard. So, for example, she was doing. Were you doing year 12 at the time?
Yeah, I was in year 12.
She was doing year 12, which is the last year of school. So she's busy. So I tried to, at that time, make another appointment with her. Would you like to get together, on Monday? And her reply, no, I've got an assignment. Okay, that's okay. What about Tuesday? Oh, I'm busy. Okay. What about Wednesday? I'm not sure yet. So it was very.
I'm going to be washing my cat that day. Sorry.
Exactly.
The question was for Pauline. Like, why were you resisting all of this smooth suave?
It was because it was too smooth. It was too smooth. I'm like, if it comes too easy, it won't be worth keeping. And so I guess I had watched my family's marriages. They all were deteriorating. And I thought, I don't want a part of that. So I was 17, a little bit on the crazy side, just wanted to
a lot on the crazy side.
That's what he liked. He liked crazy, really.
I have to admit, I did.
Okay.
But yeah, after a while, to win me. After a while, like he has an energy, he has a spark, and for a person that's always been on the outer, to see someone like that, and I was like, it was mind blowing to me. We are totally opposite in everything, from our natural taste to our natural inclinations. We are totally opposite.
Well, the old saying is the opposites attract, right?
I found out later she did really like me, but she didn't like the setting, the way it worked. Okay. So yeah. But we slowly, I was breaking the ice, slowly. But she made me earn it. Let me say that.
Well, that's not such a bad thing either. But so she was 17. How old were you? Okay.
I was 20.
So that's pretty close to legal here in the States, but that's good. So how soon did it become serious relationship?
Yeah. Well, pretty quick. I kind of, I don't know what it was, but once she started talking to me, we really felt that connection. I really felt she's my girl. And to the degree that I rang back home, I rang my parents. I said, "You won't believe this." And my dad said, "What?" I said, "I met a girl, and I'm really, really interested in her. And we've been talking and this and that. And I don't know, Dad, but I think I'm just going to ask you to marry me." And he said, "Well, I'm behind you, son. And if that's what you're comfortable with, that's what you feel like." I said, "Yeah, absolutely." But again, talking to her, she was not giving me the right signals. So it was kind of difficult. From one end, her mom was encouraging, and she's almost, there was a glow on her mom's face, on her face. But I'm looking at Pauline, and she's kind of really giving me a hard time. And but I think I want some pointers. There's one day she was doing her homework.
Oh, please, I've heard the story 1,000 times.
It's worth mentioning.
It was one question on a math test.
It makes all the difference.
Oh, my God.
I was really good with maths at the time, and that was one of my favorite subjects. And she was struggling to come up with the answer.
It wasn't struggling. It was. I wonder if this answer's right. That's what really happened.
All right.
This is why I like interviewing the two together. The real truth has to come out.
It might not be very healthy, Adam. But anyway, I was able to explain it and help her give her the answer. I tell you what, I felt like King Kong. I was like, yeah. But I think there was glimpses there of her accepting the fact that we're talking then. And so basically, kind of very long story short, I think there was on my last day before I go back home, and I just wanted badly to pop the question and see where she's at, you know. And I remember doing that, and it wasn't a yes. But it wasn't a no either. It was I'm not sure, and this and that. And I kind of understood. It's kind of very quick, very, very different. Two different cultures. But I remember that day we spent quite a bit of time talking, and I was trying to dig deep. What's her fears, and what is she thinking? And then she started opening up and sharing a few things. And, you know, I was just able to give her some confidence. You know, I'm not leaving my country to come and get married and that's it. This is genuine. I like you. I think we can make this work, and, you know, just give me a chance sort of thing. And anyway, so we left it at that, but I went back home. Remember, at that time, there's no email, there's no mobile phone. So maybe just by ringing her, you know, international call. And back then, you can't call from home. You have to go to the central and go into that little room, you know, you start yelling, "Hello!" And it was very, very, very expensive. But we stayed in touch, and there was a breakthrough. There was a breakthrough. And so what I did, I just basically went through the legal direction of organizing my visas to migrate. And because I worked in the airlines, I spoke English, I had a little bit of money. It was a kind of a quick turnaround. Within 3 months, I got my migration visa.
So was that the reason? I mean, was she the main reason that you were migrating? Yeah.
Oh, I'm coming for her, absolutely. But not migrating to Australia, and she's kind of the entry card. That was not absolutely not on my cards, because it was her. It was her.
And so how long after that did you say that you actually migrated?
I ended up coming back same year.
You couldn't stay away.
86. No. Well, it was costing me too much. And we decided February 2007, 87. 1987. I'm getting all my years. 1987 February. We got married.
Okay.
That's
So,
when the journey
and
began.
you were not saved at the time, but what would you say
No.
was your religious level with the two of you? Did you have any conversations about that?
I don't know about conversations, but I went to her church, which is a Baptist church. You know, I didn't care really. I just wanted
For
to go.
all the right reasons.
100%. I was, singing the songs, going to church, doing the right things as they asked me to, and that was it. That was it, really. But there was no in-depth conversation about church,
Okay.
Christ.
And what about you, Pauline? Where were you at spiritually when you got married?
I had been saved, I think I was 13, said a sinner's prayer, probably really got saved, and then had no way to go on with that. So I thought, I just want to fit in with all my friends. And so I'm just going to be crazy for a while. And I was until, and that craziness took me through way past into my marriage, but no real spiritual understanding. Yes, there's a God. We weren't Muslim, so that means we're Christian, which is what the Arabic culture is. There's a very sharp divide. You're either this or that. So we considered ourselves Christians, but we're very, I guess, religious. We didn't genuflect. We didn't do the sign of the cross because we were Baptists, so we weren't Catholic. But yeah, it wasn't deep. There was no transforming power within us. We were just very religious.
Okay. And what did life
Christians,
look like for the two of you? Like what were you looking forward to at the time?
Yeah, happily ever after.
I was absolutely believing for this. I've won the lottery. You know, the girl of my dreams, a new beginning, a new life. I thought this is I won the lottery. Not sure for her.
No, I thought this is going to be exciting. We're going to be best friends. We're going to do all this stuff together, and then it kind of.
How long did the honeymoon phase last before things started taking a turn for the worse? Oh, a week.
A week or two. Because we both went back to. I went back to work. He went back to work. And then, if you can think of it, I'm 18. I had just turned 18, and my husband was still, in his very, very early 20s. So we kind of went, now what do we do? I guess there needs to be washing done, cooking done, cleaning done, home maintenance, and all the other stuff. And I went, I don't like this.
And my expectation is this goes without asking. She should know all these things. But lo and behold, she had never experienced these things. She's living at home. She never was involved to be taught or learn any of these things. So we were both completely green when it comes to that. I'm starting still to fit in. I'm jumping, from working in the airlines. I'm jumping as a truck driver. I worked a little bit in their business, but I'm feeling kind of, I should be doing better than this, So my self-worth, I'm feeling kind of, I'm not the man that I should be providing, So there was a lot of issues going on. Coming home, I'm like, what's for dinner? What's dinner? Sort of thing, So it was very quickly falling apart. And I'm referencing back to my culture. This is what I'm expecting. And part of that is Middle Eastern marriage is more loud. The louder you get, the more serious you are. Don't ask me how that works, but that's what I saw. That's how I watched, in the movies. If you yell and shout, this is where you can get respect. But for Pauline, it's like, that's what are you doing? Who do you think you are? So very quickly, it was a battle of who's going to win here. I'm trying to stamp my authority. she's trying to say, this is not going to work with me. So there was a constant loggerheads. We did have good times, but it was didn't last long. Didn't last long because we genuinely wanted to, work well with each other. We liked each other, but how to make that work, we had no idea. We had no idea how to work.
So much of it is learning conflict resolution, right? How do we get through the bickering to find, a common ground? And a lot of that is having to humble ourselves. And that's hard to do, especially young people like that. So, and coming from two different traditions, it sounds like you both had very different models of what a marriage looked like, and maybe didn't know how to work that out.
Completely. And what made it worse, Adam, is we are very strong personality.
So you're both firstborns of your family, yes?
We're very strong.
Okay, so that can be explosive. Yeah.
Yes. So and it was very explosive because in my mind, no, you need to listen to me Tarzan, me husband. You know what I mean? That was my attitude. And she said, like, drop dead. You're not gonna run my life like that. You're not gonna talk to me like that. So it became. But I'm demanding respect. I'm demanding obedience. I'm demanding listen. And our arguments accelerated very quickly. And I'm ashamed to say that it became violent. It became very violent. And out of frustration, I would throw things, not at her, but just to a manifestation of my anger, a vase, a coffee table, put a fist into the plaster wall.
Yeah.
It was not good. It was not good to the degree. And we both have very good lungs, by the way, being Middle Eastern, very good lungs. So you can hear us from a mile away. So our next door neighbor constantly hear us, and one night they called the police, and they just came at our doorstep, and we got a report of domestic violence, this, that, the other. Obviously, I'm refuting that. What are you talking about? But what happened before that? We were entangling, and I think she scratched me on my face, and so he said, "What's this?" I said, "Oh, I was just shaving." But I completely said, "No, we just got married. What are you talking about? Whatever that report is false." Anyway, so they gave me a warning. If we get another report, we're going to come back and ask a few questions more and take you with us.
Yeah.
Anyway, so it was bad. If I can just summarize it, it was really.
And what were the consequences of that? What comes next?
It was nasty. Well, the sleeping on the couch for days, not talking for weeks, I purposely do the things that she doesn't like. She purposely do the things that I don't like. It was just that type of life, I'm going to get you, I'm going to get him.
I constantly have to remind couples
it wasn't very healthy at all.
You have to act like you're on the same team instead of being against one another. And it sounds like you didn't have that revelation.
And I can categorically tell you, we were not on the same team at all. We were the opposite teams for sure. Who's going to win, And so that didn't help. And, we tried reasoning. Obviously, you don't reason with Middle Eastern. We just don't reason. It's my way or the highway. But when both of us do the same, it's fiery. It's firing. And it became unbearable. It became like when you don't want to go home.
Yeah.
Because it's waiting for you. No. The tension was so thick, was way so thick, and you kind of, and then the other side of it is like, what have I done with my life? I got married at 21. She's 18. Our life is falling apart right in front of our eyes, at a very, very young age. And you almost think, have I made the wrong call here? And you question yourself, you doubt, and you condemn yourself. Maybe I jumped the gun. Maybe that was not wise. Maybe I should go back. Maybe what do I do here? I don't have anyone to talk to, you know. So the loneliness, being on my own here in a foreign country, and my life is falling apart. You know, I used to work for the airlines, uniform, good wages, a girlfriend or two, a car. Do you know what I mean? I was living life there. It's not because I wanted to come to Australia. That was not. So a lot was going in my mind. But we just could not get a middle ground. We were not able to get a middle ground, and I think I pushed my limits one extra time. And just one day I come back from work and there's a piece of paper on the table saying, "I'm leaving you." You know, and I have to admit that was, even though you can see the writing on the wall, but
yeah. So Pauline, what was going through your mind when you wrote that? It was over for you.
Yeah. Our fights would. So all right. So there's two things at work. One is our own personalities, which are very strong, and the other thing is our culture. Our culture doesn't back off. If you engage in a fight, you don't back off. And so when he'd escalate, I'm like, bring it. Because I was insane. Let's bring it.
She was.
I'm much better now.
Hates her. Jesus.
Much better now. But we escalate the fights.
Wow.
It's like, come on. I'm not backing off. I'm not scared of you. I'm not scared. And so, and I'm thinking, like, there were times I threw something once, and he ducked.
Thank you, Jesus.
And it thudded into the wall behind him.
Wow.
And I went, if that landed, I could have killed him. And on the outside, I'm like, yeah. But on the inside, I'm like, oh, look what you just did. But that was our fighting. You don't back off. You don't back off until you're totally exhausted. And so physically, even our physical bodies couldn't take it anymore.
Exactly.
We were exhausted physically. It started to show up in symptoms in our own bodies, feeling ill and sick and just constantly ill. So there was so many things that I thought one of us is going to end up dead. Seriously, I was practically running for my life. Not afraid of him. I wasn't afraid. I was just afraid of where we would take it.
So yeah, it's amazing because I'm trying to picture, the two of you who seem like a perfectly happy couple sitting in front of me, but I love this not because of how painful it was, but because there could be people who are going through that or know of somebody going through that right now, and the very presence of the two of you talking to me now, so many years later, is evidence that God can change people's lives. And so maybe you guys could take a second to encourage somebody who's in the middle of some really devastating marital problems right now.
100%. And God used that in our ministry as we pioneered, as we spent time counseling people. And many times I get the comment, but Pastor, you don't know what we're going through. And I gently smile and I said, I do know, because I've been there. So I want to encourage any couple that are going through some trouble in the camp and some conflict. Listen, it doesn't have to be that. It's not the end. I've been to the extreme. We had a word that we ended up using at the end. This is kind of our motto. Yeah, we're not compatible. We're not compatible. I made a mistake. We are not compatible. We're not compatible. And we laugh at this now because we're still not compatible. We're completely different characters, different choices, but I tell you what, this is so precious. When God restored us, when God saved us, there is something supernatural that took over, no longer becoming an issue. It's actually a laughable thing, and it's exciting. We are in love today more than I've ever been with my wife. And I want to give anyone that has listened to this testimony, there is hope. There is we were finished. You would look at our life, you'd say, no chance. It's like hasta la vista, baby, But I'm telling you, if you would we had to humble ourselves. It's simple as that. We have to say, I am sorry, I am off, I am wrong. I had to say, listen, I was the one,
Wow.
And it just changed us. It's just changed us. And salvation is a key factor in that.
Yeah.
Is a key factor in that. So it's not over. It is not over by not. Our life was over completely, to the degree. So when she came in and left me that note, there was no way of reconciliation. I rang her parents. I rang some relatives. I tried to ring her. There was nothing. The door was shut. That's it. I'm done. And it was. I'm like, I even at that time, let's try and work it out. No, I even went to the pastor of the Arabic church, and he's comment, just find someone else. It was like, seriously, that's not what I came to you for, It was difficult. Her dad leaving me a very colorful note. So like there was no way out. It was done. And it did end up getting to a legal divorce through the courts, and it was ugly. We had a house then, we lost that. This is mine, this is yours. So you went through
the full legal divorce.
It was horrible.
And that takes time. Like, that's not just an overnight thing.
100%.
Yeah.
You have to wait 12 months. So imagine 12 months of, I was lost in my mind. I was lost in who I am. I was lost in my identity. I was lost of regret, shame. I was feeling abandoned. I was feeling rejected. I was feeling no confidence in me whatsoever. I messed up. I was rejected by her. I'm no good. Anything negative you can think of, I felt. My only relief at that time is I was a very good soccer player. And I made it my mission. I was playing up to 6 nights a week, indoor and outdoor. But I wasn't playing for the game. I was playing to fight. I was playing to argue. I was horrible on the soccer field. If there's any argument, I'm the first one in, with my first punch, and they would kick me out and say, this mad Egyptian, get him out of here, And I was red carded from 3 indoor soccer stadiums, never to come back. Police would come. I was raging with rejection and anger at people, anger at God. If you would look at me funny, I'd slap you. No, I have no hesitation, So that's what I threw myself in. And the issue was, and here's where it becomes more sensitive, is when Pauline left, she was pregnant. So that kind of added to the weight. What now? And here, just to show the level of what we were going through, she was booked in to a specific hospital to have our son. And I heard from a relative that she was going into hospital to have the baby. So I went to that hospital knowing that, that's where we booked. But I go there and her name wasn't on the list. So I'm what do you mean it's not? We booked here. So again, I'm trying to ring around, and apparently she booked somewhere. She changed because she didn't want me there. So again, I'm frantically trying I want to come and see my baby. I want to see my son. And I was very sternly told, you're not welcomed here, and you're not going to see your son. Now you have to kind of be in my shoes in that.
It's like, what do you mean I can't see my son? That's my son. That's our son. I need access, and I'm now losing the plot. You know, I wasn't an alcoholic, but I would drink heaps of beer, not to get drunk, but just to do something. You know, I play more sports. I'm more fighting, and to the degree that all I knew that I have a son by the name Daniel, but I don't know what he looks like. Now imagine the depth of pain that I was going through. So I remember clearly one night, you know, I'm really out of my mind, and I'm thinking, you know what? That's okay. If I'm not allowed to see him, then maybe she's not allowed to see him too. And all of a sudden, Adam, demonic spirit has filled my mind. I'm going to kill her. I'm going to kill her. And that way, she's not going to see him. I'm not going to see him. And I had it all planned. I had it all worked out. I'm going to do this with my car. I'm going to knock her off, this, that. And I'm telling you, like, it was demonic. It was like, I'm like, you know, there was no fear anymore. You know, when you get to that level, when you don't care anymore. There's no logic anymore. There is no right or wrong. There's no, no, that could be, there was none of that. I was adamant, you know. The only thing that stopped me from going ahead with that is that I did not have enough guts to do it. And I thank God for that, because I was absolutely adamant. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this and finish it off, and let the chips fall where they want to fall. If I get locked up, I am locked up in my own spirit anyway. Do you know what I mean? I'm not enjoying life. I'm in trauma. I can't do this. I'm going to finish it off. And I thank God that just, you know,
So
when it got to that
was
level,
the divorce finalized at that point already? Yeah. So Pauline, what were you going through throughout all this time?
Yeah, it was done.
I think for me it was also, so for a Lebanese woman, she goes back to her father. You go back to your parents' house. There's always a male that needs to be there. So I wasn't with my husband, I had to be with my father. That's our culture. So I go back to my dad. But the disappointment that they're looking at me with disappointment.
The shame,
it was, you've embarrassed us. You've shamed us.
The family name.
The family name is now mud. Yes, I could never.
You probably could have said, you're the one who liked him first.
Anyway, but I was feeling it. Exactly. Oh, look, I had to deal with that for a very long time. But it was just so, I guess, hurt people. And because it was so painful. It's so incredibly painful. I don't understand. Like, sometimes my husband and I laugh and we go, how do these people that say, oh, we're divorced, but we're still best buddies, you know, we're still friends. I'm like, friends? How could you?
Right.
Does not make sense. Well, not in arm's length.
Almost literally in this case.
For the throat. We go for the jugular.
Well, there's got to be some sunshine behind these dark clouds.
That's right. Somewhere eventually.
It's coming.
To me, it was, you idiot, you stupid girl, you stupid person. Look at all these women. They must be better than you. They must be smarter than you. They must be prettier than you. They must be whatever it was more than you, that they can hold a relationship together.
And that was coming from you.
You are
not from others.
Stupid.
Yeah.
And I was so, the internal, all these are internal voices. And I couldn't, there was no fighting that, because it was truth. And so into the depression spiral you go, and it was horrible time. The first time I said to someone, they go, oh, so you're married, or, what are you doing now? And I said I was divorced, and just the words coming out of my mouth, it was the ugliest word I'd ever uttered. And I'd cussed some pretty heavy words in my time. But just telling people I was divorced.
So, wow. So you both have reached a very dark place. One, a sense of self-rejection, the other, even murderous thoughts and violence. And so where does the turnaround begin in this story?
Well, where it started, or the turnaround, is my mother decided to go shopping with some of her friends, and they went through a market called Footscray Market, and that was on Saturday. And at that time, that's when the church were having outreach and handing out flyers for a revival. Not that I knew what revival is, but miracle healing, So my mum received one of those flyers, and at the time, she was struggling with lower back issues. And, we Christians, and we believe in God, we believe in miracles, we believe in healing, So when she came home that day, she said, she doesn't drive. She said, son, can you take me? I got this in the mall, and they have meetings, and they're going to be praying for people. What do you think? I said, sure, Mum. I'm the good son. I have a soccer match which will finish at 7:30, but I'll come quickly pick you up and I'll take you. We're going to be a few minutes late, but that's okay. It's not the end of the world. And did that, played 2 or 3 games that night, because I used to not only play my game, but sit there on the bench. And if a team missing a player, and because I was a very good player, I was quickly get picked up to play. So I went, picked her up, and went, not knowing what I'm entering in, to be honest with you. So we went to this church. It was packed. But the very first thing that struck me as I walk in, everyone's dressed up. Shirt, tie, suits. They're all clean cut. I'm in my tracksuit. My socks is on top of my track pants. I look horrible in the midst of all this glamour. I said, what's going on?
Okay.
And it was actually an area-wide rally. So the church is packed. And then I think we came in, and a few minutes later, as we greet one another. And I think I shook hands over 100 people. Everyone go, hey, good to see you. When we see a visitor, hey, good to see you. Welcome. Thanks for coming. How did you find? I'm like, why are you all happy? Remember, I'm depressed. I'm angry. I don't want to be there. I'm just there for my mom. That was not my plan. And, but they're all happy. They're all smiling, and I'm like, this is very weird. I'm looking, where's the statues? Where's the cross? Where's the pictures? Where's Mary? Yeah. So I'm too busy consumed. What the heck is going on here? But I enjoyed the music. I enjoyed the songs, and I didn't know the word. The band was very good, and I'm like, yeah, I have to admit, it was Pastor Greg Mitchell that was preaching the revival for us. So, and I wish I can say I listened to everything he said, but sorry, Pastor Greg, I didn't. I was just looking around, and what I noticed is that struck me is husband and wife sitting next to each other, and they're kind of very engaged together, and some of them are sitting like this, and some of the wives are putting their head on, and I'm like, and
not like us.
Yes. I'm like, so all of a sudden it just, our life just flashed ahead of me. Says, that's what I wanted. That's what I want. I wanted this. And you see them looking at each other, and I'm like, you're making me sick here. But it was a moment to ponder, and it's like, that's all I wanted. That's all I wanted in my marriage, is to have a good marriage. and to feel
Wow.
like this and to be close to her. And so that kind of took me away from the sermon and the preaching. But I remember, Adam, when Pastor Greg Mitchell pulled the altar call, you know, you got to understand, we don't respond very well. We're stubborn. For those that are listening, Middle Eastern are very, very, very stubborn. So for me to lift my hand and admit that I need forgiveness, I need help, it's just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. The problem is when the Holy Spirit kind of allowed Pastor Greg to pull the call once, twice, and on the third time, I don't know what happened. It was supernatural. I knew I needed something. I didn't know what I needed, but I needed something. So Pastor Mitchell said, God wants to help you. God wants to restore you. And these words started ringing in my eardrum. I'm like, well, that's what I want. Here we go. So I lift up my hand, and then he said, brother at the back, you lifted it up. Would you come forward? I'm like, can't you see what I'm wearing? I didn't say that, but I'm like, I was so embarrassed. So anyway, so I walked to the front, and a disciple came and prayed the sinner's prayer with me. And that was okay. I genuinely repeated what he said, but it's what happened after that. This disciple put his hand on my back and started praying for me. He didn't know anything about my life. He didn't know anything about me. But he said, oh, God, help my brother. God, Lord, move in his life. And at that moment, Adam, heaven opened up. And I started weeping uncontrollably. You have to understand, we Arabs don't cry. We just, that's a sign of weakness. And I didn't even was able to control myself. And it wasn't weeping of sorrow. It was almost tears of joy. I felt refreshed. I felt alive again. I felt something. I felt the grace of God touching me and healing my spirit. I'm talking tears. I'm talking snot. I think they told me they had to steam clean the carpet the next day. You know, it was a fountain, and it was a touch of heaven that it was. I would never forget that experience. And I remember I got out of that altar, and everyone was talking to me, but it's almost like I was in my own zone because there was something going on. I remember driving home that night by the way, my mother got prayed for. She got healed. All right. So we both rejoiced, and we're driving home. Now, I couldn't remember the songs. I don't know the words, but I remembered the tune. I was a bit of a drummer. And so I'm like, I'm whistling and I'm Jesus. All of a sudden my attitude has changed. My demeanor's changed.
Right.
There's this joy that I haven't had for a number of years. And nothing changed really in my situation, but it was a touch of God. And so anyway, before we left, they're asking, I'm glad you got saved. I have no idea what just took place, by the way. I just prayed a prayer. And they're inviting me back again. So they're giving me I'm looking at the vote flyer, and, it's Sunday morning, Sunday night, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I'm like, man, what, do you come to all of this? He said, yes. I said, okay. So here I am. Remember, I'm an airline guy. So I had shirts. I'm used to wearing shirt and ties and suits. I've got all this stuff. So that was Saturday night. Sunday morning, I got up early, shaved, showered, and put on my best suit, shirt and tie, after shave. And I turn up to church, man. And they're like, hang on a minute. Are you the same guy? Like one night I'm in my soccer gear. The next night I'm fully, you have to, it was comedy. It was very comedy, because in my spirit, it's like, I will show them. I've got this stuff, I'm not just a bum. And that was it, really. There was something there that I was longing for, and the friendliness and just the people were very kind and accepting. And remember, I'm coming from being rejected, her, I just needed someone to smile to me. And the love that I received, the acceptance
Wow.
that I received, the word of God that was being preached is I got revived, man. There was something, I can't explain it in words. I'm all of a sudden can see the world in color again. And that was it. So I started asking lots of questions because I just wanted to know what's that all about? What type of church is this? You know, how come you haven't got this? I was heaps of questions. And I thought, do I have to come to every service? I mean, seriously. I mean, you know, I'm not going to be the Pope or anything like that, you know. And I remember a disciple telling me, listen, Steve, the service that you miss could possibly be the one that God wants to talk to you personally. And man, these words ring in my ears to this day. And Adam, before God, from that moment,
Wow.
I never missed a service since.
And
that was
how old were
September
you?
1989.
24.
September
So how long did it take for you to tell Pauline about this
24.
amazing transformation? Yeah. She's not part of your life anymore.
Why would I? I'm just enjoying it myself. I thought the best way of doing it, that's it, it's finished, it's a closed chapter, and I'm gonna, pursue my life. Because not in my wildest dreams that I thought there is any way or possibility of reconciliation. We're done. We are legally divorced. She's withheld my son from me. I want nothing to do with her. So that was I got my heart right. I'm all good now. So I'm looking at life and the future. What am I going to do? And so I became a disciple. Like very quickly, I became a disciple. I went into everything: outreach, teams, every church service, concerts, you name it. And I was a bit of charismatic, so I was really involved. And before you know it, 6 months down the road, I'm in ministry, I'm in drama, I'm in the sound ministry. I'm into it. I'm in. I'm all in. 100%. 100%. That was done, and I threw myself into serving God in the church, and it's like almost we've never had a night free because other drama practice, band practice, this, that, outreach, fellowship, Bible study. So I needed that. I was consumed with that, and to be honest, that I said, okay, well, life is good again. I'm not going to stay single for the rest of my life. Why don't I start? I like that girl, or maybe I like that girl, and I start. Now she's
sorry, that was funny.
So I started, saying, okay, let's see how we go, but it wouldn't work. It just didn't sit right. There was almost like a blockage there. Just nah. Now I'm very careful now. Again, I'm heavily involved in church. At the time, I'm asking my pastor, what do I do? He said, just serve God, take one day at a time. Take one day at a time. That didn't mean sense to me. What's that mean? I want to be married. I want to live life. Tried a couple of relationships at church, didn't work. So I said, that's all right. I can fix that. So out of frustration, I made contact with my school sweetheart back home in Egypt, and basically explained to her my situation, what happened, what took place, where I'm at, and just found out, are you still single? Would you be interested? This, that, the other. And I went to Egypt and spoke to her, and she was kind of on board. And I came back, basically got the sponsorship paperwork all organized, all filled out, all signed. I remember vividly, it was sitting in a yellow envelope on my desk. I was living at the single boys' house at the time, which was another experience. But on a Wednesday night, from being married now to living in single boys, it was a culture shock. So I remember clearly on a Wednesday night after service, we had fellowship, came back home. At 10 o'clock, my phone rings at home. My landline rings at home. And on the other line is Pauline. Now I'm like, okay, something happened. Either my son is sick, something drastically happened. But you have to understand, I'm ready for the confrontation. It's because it's either something happened or she's going to tell me off for something that I haven't done. And so I'm got my backup. I'm ready to fire up.
Let's
some
get ready to
words
rumble.
and whatever. But what? Absolutely. Oh yeah, I'm ready, because that was the very first time we ever speak in about 3 years.
Wow.
3 years of no contact, no visual, no phone call, no nothing. 3 years of silence. So I'm not sure what to expect here. All I remember, she's feisty. She's probably gonna degrade me or attack me in her words, and I'm gonna say that, and she's gonna say that, and I'm gonna say back. So I was ready. I've got my backpack ready. But very quickly I realized she was very sweet. She was very gentle. She was very soft spoken. I felt like, are you dying?
Who is this?
What happened to you?
Because, yeah, exactly. And then she started to ask me, how are you? Like she hasn't spoken to me in 3 years. Why do you care, What have you been doing? So I didn't know what to talk about, to be honest with you. So I very quickly started talking about church and what happened to me. I said, I got saved. I go to church now. And in fact, I go 3 times a week, and then we have Bible study, and then we have concerts, and I'm doing this and I'm doing that. And to be honest with you, I'm a completely different man than the one you used to know. I've changed. I'm doing this now. I do this job, and I do that. And we spoke for 4 hours. We just spoke and spoke and spoke and spoke. And then she asked me, would you like to catch up? I'm like, why? So my evil mind straight away think, she's going to use my son as a carrot, And then she's asking me, I'm thinking of going back to Lebanon for a visit, and I want you to just sign Daniel's paperwork for his passport. And obviously, no, I'm not going to sign nothing. I haven't seen my kid. I'm not going to sign nothing. All I know that you're going to run away with him. I'm not going to do that. So I was gentle about it because I'm saved now. But I made it very clear. I said, I don't think I can do that. This, that, the other. I'm sorry. And then she said, well, do you want to catch up? And I'm like, catch up and talk about what? Anyway, my immediate thought is, well, listen, I'm not comfortable meeting with you alone. Why don't you come and visit my church and just see what I'm involved in, Now, knowing that she have zero interest in coming to church or being involved in what I'm involved, especially, now I'm filled with the Holy Ghost. I speak in tongues. We used to mock the Pentecostal churches and say, man, it feels like a zoo or like a market. $1, $1, $2, $3. And I know what she thinks of that setting. So I thought, I'll just invite her anyway, and she's going to say no, but at least I've done the right thing. That was my attitude. And guess what, Adam? That's exactly what happened. I invite you to come. Her exact reply was, nah, maybe one day.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Done.
I've done my part. I'm the Christian. I've invited. God cannot say that I haven't invited her. I haven't
blood's
tried.
not on my hands.
Anyway,
so Pauline,
right,
fill us in on your side of the story. What's been happening for these 3 years for you?
Well, I guess for me it was also I'm not going anywhere. My life is not going anywhere. But I'm too pride-filled to try and sort things out with my husband. What I'll do is I'll contact him and say, I'm going overseas. Can you sign Daniel's passport? And if a conversation happens, a conversation happens. I wasn't pursuing you. And just see what happens from there. And so I'm talking to him and he's telling me about church. And church. No. I want nothing to do with church. I want nothing to do. I did not like Christians. I thought they were hypocrites. I thought they were weak. I thought they were wussy people, uptight women, soft, spongy men. No, I don't want to go to church. No. But anyway, like he kept talking. We're talking through things, and we were just talking. And I think that was the first time, like my husband said, the first time in the 3 years that we actually talked. So I hang up, I go to bed, I'm thinking about it the next day, and I went, I probably won't I'm not going to church. I might go later, in a few months. And seriously, without word of a lie, a voice speaks to me and says, if you don't act now,
oh wow,
I will never visit your life again. I know, to scare me, like you have got to be intense. And I was like, okay, this is scary. All right, I'll go. I'm scared. So I rang the pastor and I go, oh, look, this is, who I am and how do I get to church? He goes, I'll come and get you. Okay, cool. When can you come? So he came Sunday morning. The very next Sunday morning, I'm in church.
From Wednesday, she was saying, no, maybe one day.
Did you know she was coming?
Did
you communicate about this?
I got
nothing. I'm on the stage. I'm on the stage. I'm testing the mics. Check 1 2, testing 1 2, and the head usher is running towards me. He said, Steve. I said, what? He said, your ex-wife is here.
Look, why do things by halves? Let's just.
And without a lie, Adam, I'm looking back, and here she is. She's standing in the middle of these double doors. She looked like an angel, and I'm like, so what now? Immediate thing, how do I greet her? You're going to think about this. We used to be married. We're no longer married. There's friction. There's scars. There's thoughts. So I dropped the leads, the mics that I was working with on stage, and I started walking towards her. And all I'm thinking, how are you going to greet her? How are you going to welcome me into church? And let me just say, she was wicked because she had her best, beautiful dress. Her hair is all done, makeup, beautiful earring, she looked amazing. My eyes are popping out of my eye sockets. I'm like, how am I going to deal with this? Anyway, so I'm thinking, and I want you to picture it as if in slow motion. I'm walking towards her. She's right at the back door, and by the time I got to half a meter away from her, I extend my arm and I say, hello, sister. What do I say? I can't hug her. I'm safe now. I can't kiss her. It was the most awkward moment of my entire life.
Yeah. Well,
it was very comical. It was.
And what I'm thinking about is like there are still some like serious issues under the surface. Like you probably have both. You both have 100%. Big reasons to be angry with each other. You hadn't seen him at all?
Son yet.
I didn't bring him.
Wow.
Yet.
No, I didn't bring him. He stayed at home. I thought I need to go suss this out in case
they're
it's
handling
one of these
snakes
weird
or something.
Churches. Like I'm just going to go in. Yeah. I don't know. I've got no idea what this is. As soon as I hear anything insane, I am running.
Wow.
Anyway, so the ladies kind of noticed it was very awkward, so they kind of took her aside. I said, I can't do sound. I can't see. I can't hear. I can't do anything.
Down for the count.
I sat on the opposite side, and Absolutely. The song service started, and I'm just wondering, how does she feel? So every few minutes, I'm kind of trying to check her out, and then she checks me out, and like people are lifting their hands, people are clapping. I'm like, she's gonna go crazy in just a minute, you know. But I tell you what, very first service, pastor pulls the altar call. I see that. I'm like, no, it can't be. It can't be. I turn around and it was her hand up. I was like, oh, great. Girl, what now?
He wasn't rejoicing in my salvation.
I have to admit, that's not how I felt. Because all I'm thinking, she have just spoiled my plans. I'm already settled now, you know, years of messing around and but now I'm settled and I know what I'm going to be doing. This girl's going to come. We're going to get married. Now what? So I was very unsettled in my spirit. She gets saved and then the pastor calls her in. They pray with her and, you know, and then she's crying at the altar. And I'm like, oh, yeah.
So you were very cynical.
I've seen these tears before.
But what about you, Pauline? Was it a sincere thing for you?
Well, yeah, because I was adamant. I will go to one service and I will never go again.
Okay.
That was my thinking walking into church.
Well, because you heard a voice, so you got freaked out by that.
So, yeah, I'm done now. So I'm done now. I'm going to go in. I'll walk. I'll see if they are insane in any way, shape, or form. I'm running. So the pastor starts preaching, and I thought, oh God, here we go. You know, what is this going to be? But he was saying things that caught my attention. He talked about joining warfare, and that's not wussy. Like that's really intense stuff. I'm like, warfare. Okay, this is interesting. So I'm leaning in, listening to this, and he's talking about, you know, joining the team, joining the war, being part of the army. I remember my first sermon from 1993, I think 92. I remember my first sermon, and he talked about that, and I'm like, this is really interesting. And then it's every head bowed, every eye closed. Okay, yeah, you know. And he's like, you know, if you want to get your heart right with God, no, not really. And then he goes, maybe once you walked with God, but you're not anymore. And I went, oh, how did he know about when I was 13 years old? I guess that is me. So I put my hand up. I thought, oh, no one's going to see this. I'll just put my hand up. Yeah, done. We're finished here. Let's all go home. And then he goes, come out to the front. He calls my name. Oh,
because he brought you to church.
No. I don't want anyone to say.
And I'm hearing her name.
Sherry, everyone's going to know that I have to go and kneel and go. No. But thank God for the pastor's wife. She just came in. She said, let's go, you know, out the front. We went. She prayed for me. And she was so sincere. And that's what really made me look and think, this is maybe a little bit different to what I'm used to. She was a very sincere woman. And I prayed, but I was praying, yes, God, I do need you. And I can't fix what I've done to my life. But God, I don't know anything. And I think I just sat there in shock going, are you sure I needed to get saved? Like, I know a lot of people, my husband felt joy when he went to the altar. I felt, really? I was a sinner? Like, it was just like an eye-opening that I saw my own condition. And that didn't give me joy. That made me think,
godly sorrow.
Wow, you needed help and you still need help. Yeah, absolutely. And so we had two opposite reactions at the altar. Yeah, absolutely right. But yeah, that was my experience. It's just, wow.
Had you ever considered the possibility that would ever happen? That she would walk into church and say a prayer? Had you ever even contemplated that as a prayer?
So let's backtrack. I think a year before that, we had a revival with an evangelist from Prescott, and he's no longer in the fellowship. His name was Tim Masters. I don't know if during your time or not, but I remember he preached a revival for us. Again, I was on sound. No one was sitting next to me, and he calls me out. He said, "Bro, can you stand up?" So I stood up, and then he asked me this question, "Where's your wife?" Exactly. The whole church, like, ooh, because they know. You know? And then he calls me for, come to the front, come to the front. All right. So I go, and I remember this vividly. He had these big blue eyes and he looked into my soul, man. He just stared at me and he looked at me. He said, brother, let me tell you, your wife is going to get saved. Because he asked me, where's your wife? I said, I'm divorced. He said, listen, brother, your wife is going to get saved. And the whole church erupts. They're clapping. And I'm like, no. Because it took me a long time to overcome this. I'm going forward now. I'm not looking back anymore. I'm going forward. I can't do this. I don't know how to fix it. It is damaged. It's gone. It's unfixable.
Yeah.
You know, the words that used to come out of my mouth, I was very, very quick with my words, had to cut her to pieces so I can prove myself bigger and stronger. You can't fix this. Do you know what I mean? So I even went to pastor and said, what was that? Or did you tell him anything? He said, I haven't spoken to him, Steve. I said, I don't believe you. You know, I was very aggro. It's like, there was no female sitting next to me on the sound desk. How would he know that I am married? Why would he know this? But here we go. God had a plan. God had a plan. And I'm telling you, when she came in, I'm starting to connect the dots. I'm like, and all of a sudden, could that be possible? But again, I'm skeptic, man. So I went to pastor. I said, you know, pastor, I'm sorry, but with all due respect, don't you think that this is a bit of a show? Now, I've seen those tears before. They're crocodile tears. Listen, there is a hidden agenda behind her coming. That's not the ex-wife that I know. And that was true, you know. But all of a sudden, and okay, was it the same or
No, after.
You know, a few weeks after that, she get filled with the Holy Ghost? I'm like, nah. She used to mock these churches. She's not. We used to on the floor laughing. What a zoo, you know? I said, no. And guess what? He's praying for her. Yes. Let's give God praise. I'm like, what? Praise for what? And he said she got filled with the Holy Ghost, speaking in tongues. I'm like, nah. I don't accept that. So I remember the next service, he pulled the altar call. So he goes to the altar, and I made sure to position where I'm sitting right next to her at the altar.
Make sure it was real.
Exactly. And it was, so she's speaking in tongues. I'm like, oh man, you know. So look, it was supernatural. It was supernatural. And then I'm still not convinced. I'm tormented. I don't know how could this work. I went home. I threw that envelope in the bin. I rang her. I said, listen, this is what happened. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what I'm doing, but I just don't want to, you know, lead you astray. Let's just pause. I don't know. She understood, you know, blah, blah, blah. But I'm tormented. Now Pauline is coming to every service. I'm like, my goodness gracious, I can't handle this. So here is Mr. Good Man here. I got to her, listen, I'm so happy for you that you got saved, but I'm not handling this.
You're like Jonah here. You're upset. Revival's happening.
I'm telling you. Exactly.